Today's podcast is brought to you by Progresso Talent Partners, who for more than 25 years have successfully delivered interim and permanent leadership talent to transform businesses. To hire the talent you need to enable your business to thrive, visit www.progressotalent.com today. Welcome back to Extrology listeners, the podcast where we delve into the minds of some of the most innovative and influential figures in the business world today. I'm your host, Lee Cooper, and I'm thrilled to introduce a guest whose achievements and contributions are truly remarkable. With us today is Bartosz Skwarczek, an entrepreneur par excellence with over 20 years of experience in shaping the digital landscape. He's the visionary founder of G2A.com, the world's largest and most dynamically developing marketplace for digital offers, including games, gift cards, subscriptions, and software. Under his leadership, G2A.com has reached an incredible milestone, serving over 30 million users across 180 countries. Bartosz's accolades are a testament to his exceptional leadership and innovative mindset. He's a recipient of Forbes magazine's BrandMe CEO Award, the Digital Shaper Award, the Gold Medal of Polish Academy of Success, and was named Manager of the Year by the government of the Subcarpathian Voivodeship, where G2A.com began its journey. His influence extends beyond G2A.com, as he's co-founder and member of prestigious business organisations such as the International Leaders Forum, Google Next Gen CEO Club, Facebook Client Advisory Board, and the Polish Council of Global Businessmen. Bartosz is also a sought-after speaker, having shared his insights at prominent business events like the Economic Forum, the Merchants Payment Ecosystem Conference in Berlin, MIT in Boston, and Gamescom in Cologne. An alumnus of AGH University in Krakow and the SGH Warsaw School of Economics, Bartosz has also completed executive education programs at Harvard, MIT, and Oxford, specialising in fields like finance, IT, blockchain, platformization, productivity, and fintech. But Bartosz's contributions extend far beyond the business realm. He's deeply committed to social causes, having initiated the platform to organise aid for Ukraine, a testament to his dedication to humanitarian efforts. He's also involved in the Save the Children programme and supports local orphanages. On a personal note, he's an animal lover and an avid tennis fan. So what's the story behind the story? Without further ado, let's get into it. Bartosz, welcome to the Extrology podcast. It's an absolute honour to have you here today in what is undoubtedly a journey of inspiration, and certainly from my perspective, very eager to delve into your experiences and insights. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Lee. I'm super happy to be here. Hopefully I can share some good tips. I love your podcast.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Well, as is customarily with Extrology guests, we like to start for context with the early days. So I'd wonder if we could start perhaps by you telling us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and perhaps what were some of your fondest memories from that time.
I was born in Poland in the late 80s. The call of the city was New Sącz. It doesn't sound like New York, and indeed it is not. Rather small city, 100,000 people. A good place, I would say. It was the time of fall the communism, 80s, 90s. One of my first memory of my life, actually from that days, 82, when I checked the year, many days later, it was the moment when there was a war zone, so to say, in Poland. And I was 4 years old. I remember the tanks on the streets. And that is probably one of my earliest memories. But later on, my childhood, I must say, it was really good. I have wonderful parents. I have very good environment, even though there was not too many things in the store you could buy. The Poland at that time was very much post-communism. And it was a very interesting time for people as well, because of the transformation, because of everything was happening there. So I remember my father, that was, I would say, the mark of the times. My father in Poland, he was a director of a large fabric of mineral water. But during the holidays, he was traveling to the Netherlands and he was working as a gardener. And in 1 month, as a gardener in the Netherlands, he was doing more money than for a year being the CEO of the big factory in Poland. So that was one of the differences of the worlds that I was there and we are living right now. So I have a lot of memories.
I would imagine, I can only recall of my own experiences, which, growing up in the UK in the 70s and 80s, I was schooled where the Cold War and the threat of Russia primarily, we'll come on to at a later date some of the work that you're doing with the Ukraine currently, but that threat of Russia was looming large. And it was always that sort of overarching sense, even as a child, not that I was ever fearful of it, but it was always lurking in the background. Clearly, from your perspective, it's very prominent, it's on the border. But I would imagine once the fall of communism is starting to unravel and you eventually get to a point whereby with the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989, I don't know if it was because at that point I'd been 18, 19, and whether that's that sort of teenage sense of optimism and hope for the future. But I wonder, was that a similar experience in Poland, that you went through this once sort of post-communism, not quite euphoria, that may be a little bit too optimistic maybe, but this sense of hope and that there was a brighter future ahead? Or is that too simplistic a way of looking at it?
No, I think it really was like this. It was Wind of Change. I think there was a song by Scorpions of this title.
Yes, yes it was.
So that was exactly this song. And this Wind of Change and a lot of optimism was very, very sensible. I mean, you could feel it. You could feel it from people and inside the people. And entrepreneurship, I think, was born in Poland at this time when it comes to capitalism.
Do you think, is it a bit too simplistic to perhaps, we'll come on to your own experiences with entrepreneurship, but that perhaps that work ethic that you'd seen from your father as an example of someone who, to earn that extra money was taking enormous steps, getting outside of even his country to earn more money. Was that quite an early influence to see that from your perspective, or is that a little too simplistic to think of it in those terms?
My father definitely was a role model. And when I was looking at him, I could observe this entrepreneurship spirit. And very early, somehow, I realized that I want to have my own company some days. But very, very beginnings where I could give you an interesting example how I thought and how I was learning business. In my high school, I was a tennis trainer. And one of the jobs that I could have was stringing the rackets. So you have the tennis racket, around 100 holes, and you are taking a string and just stringing it. So in the evening, I had a call from the chief trainer. He was saying, "Hey, Bartosz, it's 11 o'clock p.m. and I have a racket for you. You can come to the office and string it." So I took my bike, I rode 5 kilometers. I strung the racket, which was around 1 hour, 20 minutes at the beginning when I started. And I drove back for another 5 kilometers. So 1 o'clock, I was at home. And I got for it $1. That was my paycheck. And the only way I could do it, I could increase my paycheck, was to do it faster, maintaining the quality. So within the next 4 months, I settled the record, which I think it's still there. Nobody did it faster, which was 17 minutes for one racket. So that was the idea of scaling the business. So I could get $5 per hour instead of $1. And then I have many examples like this. I was washing cars for money, not only to my father, but eventually to all my neighbors, and so on. So this entrepreneurship spirit was there from the very beginning.
Were there any other sort of significant experiences or challenges perhaps in your early life that you feel shaped who you are today?
It was a little bit different world. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have so much comfort. that many people today, especially in developed countries, have. And it was something normal that you have to walk 5 kilometers to school every day, waking up 7 o'clock. It was very normal that you are basically having homework. So after school, you are coming home and then sitting for 5-6 hours just doing your homework. So it was a very different world than we can observe right now. And these challenges at that time, I think they gave me a kind of spine, a kind of attitude that later on I was developing.
And what about role models? You mentioned your father. Were there any other role models or inspirations growing up? And how do you think they impacted your life?
A few very important people for me, which I look up to. And the first one, and I think the most important, was my mom, Margaret, or Małgorzata, as we say in Poland. I learned from her that when you do something, do it well or very well. If not, don't do it. Because she was this kind of person, very modest, very humble, but at the same time straight and of this approach. My father, that was the entrepreneurial part and people approach part. He was very kind. He was loving people. He was super open to everybody. He trusted people a lot. Many times he failed with his trust. I mean, people failed him, but I think I learned from him that it is good to be very open, even though sometimes you are paying a high price for this. But still, I believe it's a good approach to be very open and trusty. My first mentor, Tom Witkowski from Poland, during my university, at the second year of my university, I started working at the insurance business, life insurance. And he was my first mentor for many years. And he really taught me a lot about sale, about business, about life. I couldn't value that more. And last but not least was Tony Robbins and the book that I read.
Which one was it? Was it Unleash the Power Within? Would that have been the book?
Yes, that was the first one. That was the first one I read. Of course, all the others later on, but Unleash the Power Within, I read it 7 times, and I still have the 1998, I think. That was the first time when I bought it. I still have it. It looks like a workbook with all the notes and marks and everything. And that was the beginning of my journey of reading books, psychology of achievement, and really moving forward with starting with yourself. So these four people impacted me a lot.
What was the story behind discovering Tony Robbins? Was there someone who recommended the book to you? How did you find yourself reading Unleash the Power Within?
I read it accidentally. I mean, I started reading books, and one of the first one was Unleash the Power Within. Even though it's 700 pages, it seemed like, oh my God, 150 pages. The first one is tough to go through. But the farther you go, the more mechanisms you can see that are driving you and everything around it. So I think this is still, even though I read over 1,000 books, I still believe this is the most important book I ever read. And there was a time when I bought 50 pieces of this book and I gave it to every close to me people because I believed it's so important to read it.
And can I ask why? What was it about UPW that was so pivotal in your early life?
It is a playbook of how you as a human being works. And when you know the mechanisms, then you can use them. When you know about your internal dialogue, when you know about your focus, when you know about why you think this way or that way, then you can start steering that. Then you can start getting deeper. And that was also the beginning of my journey with NLP, with so many different trainings, which I eventually did over 200. And it all started with the live insurance, knocking the door, selling the insurance for clients and books. That was the very beginning.
So what initially sparked your interest in the gaming industry?
The gaming industry, I get to the gaming industry by accident. Before gaming, I was in a very different industry, steel and steel constructions. And I was very successful there. Eventually, I had to sell my company. I lost everything. So I went through the bottom to the top to the bottom. And when I started new business, one of the things I was doing was coaching and mentoring. And one day I got an email. And an email was from David, who wrote to me, "Hey, hello, Mr. Bartosz. I'm David. I'm 18 years old. Could you be my mentor?" And I didn't answer the first day. So the next day I got the long explanation why I should be mentor of David. And I said, "Oh, I like this kind of approach, this perseverance, pushing." I met the guy and he asked me if I can work with him with the psychology of achievement, with business, and then all that stuff. And I said, "All right, let's do it." We worked for 6 months. And after that, he said, "Hey, Bartosz, how about having a company together?" And I said, "Oh, wow, another guy." You know, when you're quite successful, a lot of people want to do business with you. And I asked a question, "Hey, what kind of business?" He answered, "Computer gaming industry." And my answer was, "Isn't that for kids?" And I did my research. It turned out no. And I said, "Okay, let's do it." And that was very beginning of my entering the gaming industry from zero, no background. I just was a casual gamer, sometimes heavy, but most often casual. And there were just two of us. And this is how G2A and my gaming journey started.
Just for context again, in terms of the calendar, if you like, when would this have been? What year would this have been?
What year? 2010.
How do you get started? I mean, I think to your point, I'd imagine that David was, I would imagine he had some kind of technical know-how and expertise around gaming, I suspect, or at least experience as a gamer himself. You've got some gaming experience, but never run a tech platform at that point. How do you even get started?
David was a gamer, really good, and he really well understood the gaming industry. And I was a business guy. So that was the split of our duties. And the very beginning was just two of us, first 4 employees, one very small room, and like 13 square meters. And that was the beginning. And at the very beginning, we were just online store. So we bought games and we sold games to the clients. We started with zero capital, just put a little bit of money into the business, and that was it. And we were very successful. We started selling games, and within 2 years, we were one of the leading seller in Europe of World of Warcraft, Blizzard game. So I was knocking the door, literally, all the doors to the big publishers, saying, "Hey, hello, please see me. I am here. We would love to have an official agreement with you. We are an online store and we would love to work with you directly," because we were buying games from wholesalers and different kind of retail sellers, etc. And the gaming industry was and is very hermetic. And I was traveling around the world, all the trade shows, from the United States to Germany to Korea to Japan, everywhere. And nobody wanted to talk to me. Like nobody, literally. No big publisher gave me a shot. They were saying, "We already have wholesalers, go on." And we were frustrated because we wanted to do the business, scaling it, but we couldn't. So we figured out, okay, we changed the business model. Let's build a marketplace. Because the marketplace business model, you have a lot of sellers. Everybody can sell, everybody can buy. They just have to follow terms and conditions, the law, period. And that was 2014 when we did the pivot. And that was the moment when the business really started to grow up.
And why? What was there a sort of, to your point, that pivot 2014? But was there a moment where you thought, do you know what, marketplace is the way to go? Or was it accumulation of, knocking on those doors, getting those pushbacks, and thinking actually we need to scale this in a different way?
Not really. The story behind it is that one day I just asked my people, hey, what it takes to build, when we settled the marketplace, I asked, hey, what it takes to build the largest marketplace in the gaming industry, global. And, everybody is laughing so hard when it hears this, especially outside the company. Hey, there is no chance to do it. You are from Poland, end of the world. When you look from the New York or Shanghai, Poland is like, come on, where is it? Now you know it, but 20 years ago, okay. No financial investor, no support, just couple of guys and a big dream. So it still is, when you think about it, statistically impossible. That is one of the reasons why our DNA motto is anything is possible. So going back, when I asked this question, the answer for us was quite simple, because we really good understand gaming, because from the very beginning, we were gamers. So we said, all right, there are 6 factors, most important for gamers. Prices, of course, range of products, the more products you have, the better. Payments, because payments, I can talk a lot about it. Support, user experience, and security. And the statement that I said was very simple. If you want to be on the top of the game, we have to be on the top of these 6 factors. And the next years were pushing, day in, day out, 24/7, literally. We were working like hell. And 5 years later, G2A was the largest marketplace in the world for gaming.
I mean, it's a phenomenal story. If you go back to 2014, at that point, and you forgive me, my gaming is a dim and distant memory for me. But as I would recall 2014, it was still a physical. At that point, still a physical. You bought the game. It was a physical disc or asset you purchased from a store that you then physically loaded into. We were pre-download at this point, I would imagine.
Yeah. When we were in 2014, I think 70% of the market was physical, 30% was digital. Today, we have 5% physical and the rest is digital. And something we understood very early was that the world is going there. So where the world was still very much physical, we decided to go fully digital. And I think that was also one of the reasons of our success, that we really wanted to deliver the digital experience, top notch, the best experience you can imagine for the client, act globally, but feel the client and be with the client locally. That was the reason why we implemented over 200 payment methods to be close to the client. When you are from Brazil, you doesn't want to pay with PayTM, with PayPal, but with PayTM. Yeah, in Brazil, you don't use credit cards. You use boleto. And if you don't have these mechanisms, this payment system, these PSPs, then you will not get the best conversion, success rates, and the clients. And there are many stories around it. There are many instances where you have to deliver. G2A success, if I may say this way, because we still believe that this is just the beginning of the journey, wasn't because of some one great thing we did. Was because of thousands small steps, and literally was because of people and what we were doing on daily basis.
And how do you go about acquiring that kind of unique in-country expertise, if you like, to your point around the differences between Brazil and the United States or whatever, what the customer wants. I mean, you're talking about, I think I'm right in saying now GTA has 25 million customers. That's a lot of data. That's a lot of information. There's 192 countries, I think there are, on this mortal coil. How do you know, it's a lot of information to go and consume. And I would imagine also some of those larger countries, you'd even have regional differentiations perhaps as to, what works in northern Brazil doesn't work in southern Brazil. I don't know. But so you've got some really unique kind of country-specific behaviors and desires to position yourself as the world's leading platform, global market leader. How do you acquire that knowledge?
People. There is something that sometimes entrepreneurs don't realize. It's all about people. From my perspective, building any business, any big successful business is not because only CEO or the founder. It's because of the team. It is always a team effort. So I understood that early, and one day we were sitting with my business partner. I give you an example. And we were thinking, okay, we want to do global payments. Who is the best guy we know? And we figured that, okay, once we met a guy in the Netherlands, he's working in the big PSP. And I said, all right, so David, we have to hire him. And he's saying, but how? He is earning more money than we can afford. He is working in the Amsterdam. And we are here in Poland, in Rzeszów. Probably he even cannot, say the name properly. And I said, I will fly there. I talk to him and I will bring him. And he said, no, it's not going to happen. So I said, all right, let's see. And I flew to Amsterdam. I met the guy at the airport. We had a lunch. And at the end of the lunch, we shake hands. And he was a Lithuanian. I didn't pay more than he earned at the previous company. And he didn't get any shares. And he was working with us for the next 5-6 years. And the reason, because you may ask, but why he decided to join? Yeah.
Because I think many of listeners indeed we often assume, perhaps this is me being a little unfair and categorizing my listeners with one sweeping overarching brush, but that we might assume that actually the motivating factor is the money. But there are an enormous range of intrinsic motivations you can tap into, which I suspect is where your skill and art resides.
Okay, so here is one good advice I can give you on my over 20 years experience. The best people are not working for the money because they can get great money everywhere. So you have to pay them the same they can earn in the other companies, but you don't have to pay them more. Of course, it's great if you can. You should if you can, but the best people are working for the culture, for the great boss and environment. And the word boss is not a good word because they don't want to have the boss. They want to have a partner. So every time you approach them, you are not saying, hey, would you work for me? No. Would you work with me on some exciting project? They love to make decisions. They hate micromanagement. They hate when you come to them saying, do this, do that, and this at the top of the day. They love independence. And there are several factors that are much more important than money. If you can fulfill them, it's like a tick box, then yes, they would love to work with you. Not for you, with you. You have to be authentic. You have to be very sincere with them. And you have to build the relationship when they know they can trust you. If you cannot do it, they will go away. And you cannot fail. Of course, you can make mistakes. Not a problem. but you cannot fail as a leader and someone they trust. Because in my deep opinion, trust in business is the most important factor. Not the money, not the scale, not my approach is always trust first. And that was from the first day of G2A. From the first moment I shook hand with my business partner and we said, let's do it. Every employee, every G2Anian that was coming to G2A, I shook hands with them and they knew that they can trust us. Even when you ask our past employees, I think they will give a very good testimonial because this is something we really care about. So that is the secret sauce. When you want to hire the best people, it's not about money. It's about long-term relationship and creating the environment that they can thrive. Last thing, you have to look people who are better than you. You know this. Player B are looking for player C. Only player A are looking for player A. And if you as a CEO or founder or president, if you are afraid that somebody at your team will be better than you, then you will not succeed. You have to, in my opinion, you have to look for people who are better than you. And you have to encourage them to look for people who are better than they are. Only then you can create in this very competitive world environment we have right now. It's super competitive. It never was so competitive as today. But still you can build amazing companies. But you have to get the best players. And that is the secret sauce, in my opinion, how to do it.
Which beautifully answers which was going to be my question, that kind of unrelenting or statement, maybe less so than a question, but that unrelenting commitment to people, both customer and colleague, we put it into that camp rather than employee. To your point, you're working with rather than them working for, but that kind of relentless commitment to people, understanding people and creating the best environment for people. Is that what it is that has enabled, you're in such a complex, hugely competitive space. Is it that focus to people that has meant that G2A can stay ahead in what is an ever evolving digital marketplace?
You ask me how we did it globally, on a global scale. And another thing is diversity. And of course, when you look at the world today, you see great ideas like diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. And in G2A, somehow we knew that 15 years ago. Because from the very early days, we were multinational company. Especially when we started the marketplace, we had almost 50 different nations, people from different countries on board. And our offices in Amsterdam, in Hong Kong, in Poland, there was a time when we had offices in India, in China. We believe in diversity, in the meaning that for us as G2A, it doesn't matter what is your country of origin, color of your skin, political background, sexuality. For us, everything is fine unless you are a good person, unless you walk your talk, unless you are deeply rooted in values. Then, welcome on board G2A. And we believe in respect. I know it sounds like, everybody is saying about respect, but it is truly the secret sauce. If you as a CEO don't have respect to your people, the best one go. Only the poor ones stay. Because the poor one, they have no place to go. So you don't respect them, in the meaning that you can do it and they will still be with you for money, but the best people, they go. And not only you have to create the culture of the company when people respect each other. Watch out. It doesn't mean you cannot afford to make a mistake. I did hundreds of mistakes, thousands probably. Even now, after those, 1,000 books, companies, 20 years, everything, I still make mistakes, probably every day. But you as a president, as a founder, as a leader, as a manager, because every manager is a leader, or at least should be going there. You have to be open to see your mistakes. And when you do it, you have to say sorry. You have to see it, hear the people, and okay, that was my mistake. I am sorry because of respect.
And do you also, I would add, I suspect it takes real courage to initiate what you described, to have the courage to acknowledge mistakes openly, have the authenticity to acknowledge those errors. But I also think what's interesting is that your comment around what strikes me is that A players, the diversity to which you refer, A players have the courage to acknowledge and welcome the diversity of thought that comes from people with different perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences. They'll welcome that. Whereas perhaps arguably the B player who's looking for the C player wants someone who thinks like me, who won't challenge my assumptions, who doesn't make me feel uncomfortable for taking me out of that, that world of thought that I occupy. Just validates my thinking. So kind of boosts me up from that. I think I'm an A player, but I'm not, and I'm a B. But my C player message, because they're validating my perspective, is kind of lifting me to believe I might be more than I am. I think it takes huge courage to be able to embrace that diversity of thought, opinion, discussion, ideas. That takes real courage, is what strikes me.
I give you an example because I couldn't agree more. And the rule we have in G2A DNA. G2A DNA is the culture. And like Peter Drucker famously said, culture is strategy for breakfast.
For breakfast, yeah.
It really works this way. So in our culture, we have this saying, best idea wins. What does it mean? Let's say there are two ideas. One is coming from the CEO or El Presidente, or you name it, top person in the company, CFO, whatever CXO you have. And the other idea is coming from the junior or somebody who is at the very beginning of the ladder of the journey in the company. And let's imagine that the junior's idea is better for the company. Then El Presidente should take his idea or her idea and put it in the pocket and says, hey, junior, I love your idea. Let's do it. And it takes courage. It takes take your ego to the pocket. And this is why juniors can grow and believe in the company. And half of our employees are over 5 years old, 5 years within the business, and they are growing with the company. We have many people over 10 years in the company. We have a lot of amazing examples, people who made unbelievable success on the career ladder, so-called, even though we try to make this ladder very flat, then from junior to the C-level. And we are proud because of that. We are proud that we could create the environment because of the culture, not because of money, not because of investors, not because of the technology, but because of people and culture and values. And this is what G2A stands for. And this is the most important thing I learned over my over 20-year career, that the values and the DNA you follow, it's like the mirror. And you like to look in the mirror and say, yeah, it's good what I see. We follow the principles. Even though sometimes it's very difficult, we follow the principles. And this is why this culture thing is so much important to build amazing businesses.
is that advice you would share? You're a coach and a mentor. We alluded to that from the outset. That sort of core advice, if you like, that often you might share with an aspiring entrepreneur, especially in the digital marketplace, is that focus on culture is absolutely essential.
Yes. I would say sometimes people look at the digital space and they're saying, hey, in digital space, the most important thing is technology, because this is all digital, online, AI, blockchain, all the buzzwords you can name here. No, in my opinion, of course, I respect different approaches because I saw amazing entrepreneurs with a different approach, and it also works. Our approach is, it all starts with people. It all starts with culture. It all starts with the DNA you have. Watch out, long term. If you want to build the long-term business, then the culture is the most important. If you want to build a short-term business, like 1 year business, quickly, boom, 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 sell it. The culture is not so important. You doesn't need it. You need KPIs, investors' money, boom, sell it. Okay, forget about it. Yeah, the deal is done. You have the money. You can start another startup, sell it within 1 or 2 years. But if you are Jeff Bezos way, 20 years plus old business, Elon Musk way, and many other great leaders, then the culture thing, the footprint you do, it's crucial. It's like a cornerstone for the business you build.
And I think that comment around culture feeds nicely into your own philanthropy and social responsibility, which is, I think, an inherent part of who you are as a human being and a leader, not least, and an entrepreneur. And your initiative for aiding Ukraine, I'm not going to do a disservice to the pronunciation. I think, as we alluded to at the outset, my Polish is shocking.
You can try. So
I'll leave that to you.
Try. It will be interesting.
Well, I'm reading it here, and even then, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, goodness, I'm not sure I can wrap my head around that. But can you share more about this platform and its impact? Because I think it's a really important initiative to shine a light on.
Of course, when the war started and Russia invaded Ukraine and started the war very early, we realized that, okay, we would love to help. Not only because of the neighbors, but because it's happening. And we created the platform. It's called in English, Acting Together. In Polish, watch out, działajmy.pl.
Hence why that was struggling to, I was getting tongue-tied with even the thought of that pronunciation.
Polish language is one of the most difficult languages in the world. So
it's a beautiful language, but it's complex, right?
Yes, it is. And that was a very separate initiative to COVID outbreak, because before we were doing different things for COVID, and that was related not only to charity, but at the end of the day, we are trying to help, watch out, people again. And the result was 2 side websites when hospitals and medical centers and more could request specific help, and companies, philanthropists, now I'm referring to COVID, companies, philanthropists, volunteers could give the support. And when the war happened, maybe not a little, but a couple of years later, we again created an initiative related to helping Ukraine. And not only we changed our office in Rzeszów, close to the Ukrainian border, and we created a shelter out of it. So almost 200 people were living there, coming, going, staying, Ukrainians, for over 3 months, 4 months. So we were giving them everything we could. And they were like, take a shelter and a safe place there. And this helping approach during COVID times, during Russia-Ukraine wartime, and in different instances, is something that I believe is a part of our culture. Even before COVID, we were helping to the kids' homes. We were founding the laboratories for the computer science, working with the universities. And in my opinion, it's important to give back, to reciprocate what you receive from life, from people, from the environment, from the world.
And also, I think you've also an involvement, as I understand it, with Save the Children and support for local orphanages. How do you see the role of corporate social responsibility evolving in the tech industry?
CSR, corporate social responsibility, is getting speed, if I may use this, maybe not appropriate word, but basically people are more aware of importance of approach. And this is extremely related also to the generation shift. Because when you look at the generation Z, they have very different approach than millennials, X, Y, and before. And this environment approach is something we really need. And the voice of entrepreneurs is important because we have to show that doing business is not only about money. Doing business is about the whole environment, the whole ecosystem that we live in. And in this meaning, not only ESG, but also CSR, DAY, and all other initiatives related to diversity, to inclusion, to equality are important in our opinion. And we are involved in all of them, involved in a very practical sense, creating G2A and following the rules. When you look at diversity and inclusion, then digital world that you operate in and democratization of digital entertainments is one of the pillars of G2A. So we want to make it available, this digital entertainment, for everybody, regardless the gender, the age, the race, status. And our diversity campaigns show how digital entertainment connects generations. It's also a challenge in today's world. I could develop more about it if you like, but this is, at the end of the day, this approach of sharing, this approach of supporting these initiatives, in our opinion, is just a part of our culture, of how we approach thinking about business and who we are.
You mentioned there around CSR, diversity, ESG. These are all, critically important. And I think the thing that strikes me is that, crudely speaking, a digital platform doesn't recognize borders, and therefore, by its very virtue, it has the opportunity to be wholly inclusive. That could be abused, arguably, but you've taken a very open view. How do you see the gaming and digital entertainment industry evolving over the next few years?
It's a great question, because digital industry on the one hand is very open to clients, to people in general. When you look at the statistics, you can see 3 billion people playing games, over 3 billion people playing games. So half of the planet is playing different kind of games on different platforms. So literally in every household, in every home, there is somebody who is playing, most often on different platforms at the same time. 72% people are playing at least at 2 platforms, like mobile and PC, mobile and console PC, etc. So the impact of gaming industry is huge. On the other hand, it's still very hermetic when you look at the publisher side. And we are acting from the very beginning on democratization of this. So creating the place when more publishers, developers, sellers, creators can join and share what they do, what they sell, what they produce, what they create. On the other hand, still improving this customer experience, thinking eventually always about the end client, and what we can expect from the industry. First, I believe the growing standard of user experience. So companies are taking care about the clients. to provide to them better experience. It's another entrepreneurial thing that even now, as an entrepreneur, now I'm saying after 20 years of doing business, you still work a lot as an entrepreneur. So yesterday I started my first meeting 8:20 a.m. and I had meetings non-stop and teleconferences, driving car until midnight. Non-stop. Even during lunch, we had a workshop. Even during dinner, it was a dinner with other CEOs. And then when I was driving car for 4 hours, I had 6 teleconferences until midnight and 20 minutes. So it was a good day. So sorry for my voice. It's basically maybe cracking a little bit. But
no, you're doing great.
But this is something you have to be aware when you want to do entrepreneurial journey. And going back to the gaming industry, we will see still constantly growing the market. We will see different kind of subscription-based services. Of course, with Game Pass being a leader, we will see consolidation of the market, in my opinion. And we will see huge player entering the game, like Apple, like Amazon, like all the big tech companies are searching for targets. They have tons of money and they are looking for content. So there is a big race between titans, Apple, Disney, Amazon, you name it. All the big brands, they have billions of dollars and they have to spend it and they need content because at the end of the day, content is the king. So this is something we're going to observe. It's going to be very interesting time, and entering AI there definitely will increase the quality, increase the range of games, increase the inside game experience when it comes to the journey, to the interface, to the interactions inside the game. The games will be much more fruitful, much more interesting from the story perspective. So, long story about what is happening, but it will be very, very interesting and good for the clients, in my opinion. And we will see democratization of it, definitely.
So we need to wrap this up. Conscious you've got other things to get to, given your day yesterday. I'm sure today is very similar, but I have one last question. My question is quite simply, what excites you about the future for G2A?
So many things. I had a great conversation once with one of my mentors. Great guy, Henry McGovern. He created in Poland and different countries the chain of Burger King, Pizza Hut, etc. And I asked him once, hey, Henry, when the business is 10 years old, what you should expect? Buy it, sell it, what to do? You are the leader of the industry, where to go? And he said, Bartosz, when the business is 10 years old and you believe in it, and you have the culture, you have the people, and you have the resources, it's just the beginning of the story. Because when you look at the biggest businesses in the world, I named a few of them, all of them are over 20 years old. All of them are on a very long-term journey. And the first 10 years is just to settle properly the business. And then the journey begins. And this is exactly what I believe is in front of us. So the first 10, 13, 14 years, we settled the business very properly. With many ups and downs, and with many challenges. Every business has them. And now when we look at our business, first and foremost, we go in all digital space. Of course, gaming is our main foundation, but we look at all digital. We look at entertainment. We feel we are, but we want to be more the largest marketplace for entertainment in the world. And this is very exciting because the world is changing so fast that you have to be not only with it, with all those changes, but you have to go a step ahead and be on the forefront. You have to be in avant-garde of all those changes. And this is also where we are heading.
So where should we send listeners to find out more? It's g2a.com is the site, but what else should we share with listeners to point them in your direction?
All social media, of course, for G2A. So Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And my personal website, I post there updates of our journey. And of course, my personal social. The LinkedIn is the primary focus. And feel very much invited. And if I may help anyhow, I am there.
Bartosz Skwarczek, you've been a wonderful guest on Extrology this morning. It's been great to share your journey with G2A with listeners. I really appreciate you taking the time out of what is clearly a very busy schedule to share some of that story with us. And your insights and your focus around people and culture, and the opportunity that G2A will continue to realize and scale, I think is incredibly exciting. So really appreciate you taking the time. It's been great to have you as our guest here. My very best wishes for your continued success, and we look forward to watching you to continue to flourish.
Thank you very much, Lee. My honor to be here. All the best to you.
Listeners, thank you for your ears, eyes, and energy this morning with what was a fascinating insight into the digital platform world that is G2A.com with our guest, Bartosz Skwarczek. If you've enjoyed today's show, don't forget to jump onto your podcast platform of choice and leave us a review. Get over to Extrology.com where you can download or listen to previous episodes with a multitude of great guests that we've enjoyed, and there's plenty more to come. If you want to get in touch, you can reach out to us on all of our socials, Extrology on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or indeed you could email me, lee@extrology.com. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to joining you next time. Just a reminder, today's podcast is brought to you by Progresso Talent Partners. Visit www.progressotalent.com today for more information.